video and then in the audio in 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today with me, I have a special guest. Her name is Gail Lynn, and she is an inventor and an author and a filmmaker. She is well known as a visionary and a pioneer in the realm of frequency healing, celebrated for her groundbreaking creation, the Harmonic Egg and the Lift. Oh, two creations, right. These innovative sound and light frequency chambers, designed with the aim of fostering holistic healing and wellness, stands as a testament to Gail's visionary approach to promoting mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well being. She is also the author of Unlocking the Ancient Secrets to Healing: Why Science is Looking to the Past for the Future of Medicine. Gail is the filmmaker behind the amazing documentary It's Time, a documentary to awaken a new paradigm of wellness. And today we will be discussing this documentary. I actually watched it, I think, 3 times, Gail, but it's amazing. I just wanted to make sure I captured all of it. We're going to talk about the documentary and the wellness from within us and how and where to begin, how to reclaim our power, how to be healthy, how to learn to love ourselves. And now is like the perfect time because, I'm recording this right now, the day after the election with Gail. So this is a perfect time to record this. It's going to be coming out in a little while, but I am really excited for this conversation because I think you're doing amazing things, Gail. So welcome and thank you for coming today.
Thank you so very much. I think it's important. I think we're both on the same mission to educate people and to help people to navigate this new terrain of what we're going into in the future.
Yeah, of course. I always like to ask everyone when they come on my show, what's your story? What's your background?
What's my story? What's my story? So we have some juicy topics to get into. So basically, I'll go through the story quickly. But growing up in Detroit, I was born in 1970, so we're probably close to around the same age. You said you were
I'm
growing up in the 70s,
1970.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So me too. And I'm a stellium and Scorpio. You're a stellium and Capricorn. So we have
No
that,
way.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I just worked in engineering and automotive in Detroit, and there was more to Henry Ford, or more to life than Henry Ford in the automotive industry. So after working in automotive for almost 10 years, I had 11 different jobs. I wanted to learn everything I could. I would absorb information, so I worked in CAD, drafting, engineering assistant. I went to school for robotics, electronics. I did all this stuff. Then I was managing the calibrations of the equipment in the laboratory and working in the plants and seeing how the whole automotive industry worked. And I thought, there's more to life than this. Well, then I went from the tangible world to an intangible world in telecom. Everything's in the cloud. So before I could look in a car window and say, oh, those are switches we worked on. Oh, how cool is that? Telecom, what happens in the cloud? I don't understand. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. So I had a really hard transition time to go from a tangible world to an intangible world. And it was fun. I absorbed the Newton's Telecom Dictionary and all the different acronyms for telecom, which is a whole dictionary. It's crazy. So I learned all that, and then I thought, oh, there's more to life than this. And then I ended up um, at a karate school where I met Elvis Presley's stepbrother, David Stanley. Started dating him, got into Hollywood with his story of what it was like to tour with Elvis Presley, and my life's stranger than fiction. So it's crazy. But
That is
that's
crazy.
how I think the universe brought me together and said, okay, you're going to be an engineer, and then you're going to learn tangible, intangible, and you're going to be in Hollywood to learn extemporaneous communication. And then we're going to set you up to really be an influencer and help people on this planet.
Wow. That is so interesting. Now, I mean, well, I know that there's more to your story because I did I did watch the documentary and you do get into that and I will encourage everyone to do that and that will be in the show notes and please make sure you go and watch it. But at the beginning in your monologue, and I'm going to read this, you state that you bring us many different health experts from so many different healing modalities to help us learn how to be healthy, how to love ourselves, how to reclaim our power that's actually within us, not external, and how we can change the entire world to be more harmonious for everyone. Do you think this is even possible to achieve?
I do. But it's about your mindset. So I'll tell you a story that happened to me last night. I got in a car accident last night. No big deal. Um,
Oh gosh.
I Oh yeah, I attract the most amazing things to my life because I expect good things to happen to me, and they do. If you expect bad things to happen to you, they will. So even Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are correct. So I'm driving down the highway, 75 miles an hour, and I try to keep it under 80 because I have the Allstate app, and if you keep it under 80, you get a discount. Great. It's a great motivation. I'm very cheap and very frugal. So I'm like, I'm staying under 80 because I want to get my Allstate discount. So I'm driving along and all of a sudden I feel just a bump and I hear this horrendous sound. This guy goes next to me into the shoulder and pulls over. I realize that he has hit me. I go behind him and I'm shaken. Okay, it's dark out and I'm 54 years old, so the night vision is going a little bit. I got my glasses on and everything. And you just kind of get in shock and then you have to stop and look around like I can't just open my door. People are going next to me at 75, 80 miles an hour. And he gets out of the car and he's walking towards my car. I take a deep breath. I'm on my way to see my boyfriend and bring him dinner. So I text him really quick. I said, I've been in an accident. I'm going to be late. I'm okay. I get out of my car. We go to the other side of the cars where the traffic is not flowing. And he says, I am so sorry. I don't think I hit you. And I said, no, I think you tagged me. And he said, no, I don't think I hit you. He said, but I should have. He said, I'm on my way to the hockey game. I wasn't paying attention. I'm with my buddy. I was on my phone. I shouldn't have been. I'm so sorry. And it was such a beautiful exchange. He touched my arm and he said, I'm just so sorry. And I was so shaken up. My knees were shaking. So I got my cell phone out. I looked at my car. It had a scrape on the bumper and a little bit of like just a scuff mark. I said, dude, I'm fine. You're fine. Let's be grateful that we're both fine. We're both healthy. Go enjoy the game. And I gave him a hug.
Oh.
How does this happen where like I'm starting to tear up and I didn't think I was going to? It was so beautiful. I'm like, I got in a car accident. It was beautiful. We didn't exchange information or anything like that. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm fine. The car's fine. It's just a little scuff. Go enjoy the game. But after I thought about it, I thought, wow, like I just hugged a stranger and he hit me.
Mm.
Can we live in a society where we can be kind and we can forgive each other and we can not be so angry? I believe it's possible. And I experienced it for myself last night with this. Can we all just do this?
So, what this reminds me of, and I'm glad that you're okay, is something I was recently introduced to somebody who I'm doing some internal work with. And I know that this isn't what this podcast is about, but I think it's an important piece considering what you just said. When I would consider her a very spiritual person. And we talked a lot about where are you vibrating? And when a person is vibrating here, there's a lot of emotions that are here. And I think when we are in a position where we feel they're telling me what to do, I have no control here, I have nothing here, you vibrate lower and you tend to react in that lower vibration, which would be of anger, upset, turmoil, depression, all of these things. When you feel powerless, fear, right? When you feel so it sounds to me like a lot of what this documentary is about is how can we as humans vibrate a little higher and realize that there's so much we can do from an internal perspective to make our lives and everyone else's lives around us better.
Absolutely. And David Hawkins' work, I don't know if you know Power versus Force with David Hawkins. And yeah, when you're vibrating at the level of fear, it's such a low vibration and you attract more of that. So you got to rise above that, get on another radio station. That's what I like to say. I always want to be on I want to be on the radio station of love and gratitude because disease doesn't live there. Illness doesn't live there. We're all under a lot of stress. So it's going to bring down our vibration because we're stressed out. But how do you deal with that stress is the key. You go out in nature, you take a walk, you do some breath work or some deep breathing, you do some energy work to shift your energy to a higher vibration. And I do believe that disease doesn't live in love. Disease doesn't live in gratitude. Where disease lives is anger, guilt, shame, fear. And there's so many people that are sick on the planet right now.
That's a good segue into what current imbalances in the world are wreaking havoc with our wellness. You get into that
I think
in
it's
the documentary.
Yeah, and I mean stress is so huge. The stress and the memes that were on Facebook yesterday, it says all of the United States is sitting there with a cigarette in their mouth, just waiting for what's going to happen with this election. All the funny memes. And you can take that stress and you can say, oh my gosh, like if my candidate wins or loses, I'm going to be this or that. The reason why I wanted to put this documentary out at this time was because I wanted people to be able to do some more things in love and kindness before this election,
Mm.
before the division starts. We're the United States of America. That's what we're supposed to be. But all I see is the divided states of America. And I want
Yeah.
people to come together and say, I open the movie up and says judgment is the only thing that separates us. And I close the movie by saying, here's a challenge from Muhammad Ali. If just 10% of people would do something more with love or kindness, we could change the world. So I wanted those bookends of the movie. I wanted people to really think about that. I don't think it matters which candidate wins or loses. It's how we come together in community and how we handle the stress. And that's what is the, imbalance. We're not balanced when we're living in so much hate and fear and we have no balance of love and gratitude. I feel like my scales are tipped to love and gratitude. And I don't want to, be tipped in fear. I want to be staying in a place that I know that good things are going to happen to me and they do. And they do, just like last night. What a beautiful story that I could tell you today. Um, so many things could have been different with that story, but I attract what I want in my life and I attract my reality. I mean, he could have gotten out of the car and I would have been somebody that was super angry and, hurt him. He could have had a very different experience. One of my girlfriends called me right after it happened. I told her, she's like, I bet you he is so grateful that he hit you. It's like,
Yeah,
I
not some
guess.
angry person.
Right, right. And people are so angry right now. And so
Yeah.
I think stress is the big imbalance, but also heavy metals and viruses in the world right now. So you know me, everything's about threes, sixes, or nines. My favorite number has always been three my whole life playing softball. I always wanted number three to be on my shirt. So I would say stress, heavy metals, and viruses are probably the big imbalances. And so we need to figure out how to combat those. And we can do those through frequency energy medicine. We can do those through our diet. You've done some amazing podcasts about food, which I think everybody should watch because it's so important to have the right vibrations of food. Our environment is constantly dumping heavy metals on us. And so I grow a lot of greens, kale, arugula, lemon balm. I have catnip, just a lot of greens, um, dill, just so many things because dark leafy greens will bind to heavy metals in the body and pull those out and help you to detox them. There's a lot of neurological diseases that the root cause is heavy metals. And there's a lot of heavy metals in our foods.
Yeah, I actually recently did a podcast, two of them. One was on dental procedures and the toxins from root canals. And I actually
Yeah.
I had an old root canal extracted. It was almost 19 years in my mouth. Had it extracted, sent it away to a lab to have it actually tested, like what was in it. And
Yeah.
we have bacteria. Our bodies are bacteria. But how much of the pathogenic bacteria was out of balance? It's astounding. So and this is part of what you talk about in your documentary is just saying, does this make sense to me? Does it make sense that I quote unquote need a root canal? Okay, this tooth is causing me problems. Maybe I just have to take it out, leave it. I actually never even put an implant. I do have one implant here that was from another dental procedure. And it was weird, Gail. It was almost like I was just meant to talk about this because in the 2 year span, I had all these things going on with me. I'm like, okay, I got to talk about this. I'm not getting paid to talk about this, nothing. But it's more about saying, think about these things. As a human being, we have the right to choose whether something makes sense or not, and whether we actually need this procedure or need this pharmaceutical or need whatever it is. We have a lot of autonomy within our bodies, within ourselves to decipher resonance. So I just have to mention that because yeah, food is big and we are losing a lot of autonomy in that space. So I love that you talk about growing things yourself. Stop listening to these people who on social media who will say kale will kill you. I'm so tired of hearing all about this. You've heard that one?
Yes.
So my
Oh my
point
God.
is when you tap in to what that power is within ourselves, within our being, you're going to look at that and go, that doesn't really make sense to me. So, yeah.
Yeah. I had a client in 2012 who came to me and she said, Gail, you have to start educating people about root canals. So every tooth is connected to a meridian line in Eastern medicine. And so she had a root canal on her stomach meridian tooth, ended up with stomach cancer and died. Now that's an extreme. It's exactly what happened to her. There's a reason why she died. She did too much energy work. She got into fear and flew all over the world, Germany, Mexico, everywhere to do all this work. And she did too much. And it ended up, spinning her body out of control and she died. But she said, you have to educate people, Gail, because this is what happened to me. So I started digging into it and it's actually true. The root canals have been really hard on people. I've had people with a root canal on their kidney meridian, and all of a sudden they got kidney problems. I've had, so I've seen it over and over again. So thank you for educating people on that, because it is something. There's a
Thyroid
nanobacteria that
thyroid
will happen.
cancer, and I had thyroid
Yeah,
cancer.
yep. You. Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So, after I had that root canal, Gail, I had a tumor in my breast, I had thyroid cancer, I had all of that, and of course, we can't go back and go, "It's definitely because of this," but there are too many coincidences that happened following that. And then, we could even go farther. Like I used to do gel nails, and then I did a thermography, and the thermographer said, "Oh my God, like unusual. Why do you have red fingernails, thermogenic patterns in my nails?" Oh, I took that off. So I'm planning to do a retest now that I've done
Yeah.
the heavy metal detox. I took out the root canal. I did cleanses. I took off these gel overlays. I did all of that. So we'll retest, but I think people need to tap into what is real. Is my food real that I'm eating? How toxic is my food? Maybe, because I've heard some Western medicine physicians, and it's nothing against Western medicine, but they say, you don't need to detox. The liver does it itself. But I'm like, okay, well, maybe that was back in the day when we didn't have so many assaults to our liver, but times have changed. So maybe we need to update that medical literature. So um, these are all
Agree.
important things because I think that they can blur our ability to just tap into what we want in the end is our own selves for our wellness.
Yeah, I don't understand a lot of what people think, but I know that in the documentary I said in my narrative, we're being told what to think and not how to think. So we need to retrain our brains on how to think. And in the medical community is great. If I break my leg, I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to get it set. But I think we've kind of conditioned ourselves to blindly follow that advice because that's how society has trained us. And, we go to the doctor, what do I do? What do I take? How do I do this? And we should be going to the doctor and saying, okay, this is what I've assessed about my body. These are the symptoms. Can you test my liver, my BUN, my AST, my ALT, and see what my liver's doing so that I know because this pain in my right side is really harsh? And or you have a pain in your back where your kidneys are, let's test your creatinine, let's test the kidney numbers. Let's go to the doctor and say, can you help me to navigate what's going on? Instead of going there and going, what do I do? How do I do it? The doctors are not trained to see the body as a system. The body is a whole system. The brain's, that song, the knees connected to or the, elbows connected to the
Yeah.
bone, whatever that song. So, everything's connected from the teeth to the meridian lines to the stomach with the immune system and the brain with the gut, and everything is connected. So we don't need a brain doctor. We need a whole body doctor.
I agree.
And we're the
I
best
agree.
doctors that we know of. We're the best doctor for ourselves.
At least we begin here with ourselves. And then I always say, bring in the experts when you need them, but bring in somebody who actually understands that. For example, you don't go to most cases, don't go to your general physician if you want to talk about supplementations for longevity. Like don't go like go to people who know. A lot of times we will go to our general physician for everything. And we just need to learn. Like I go to see my osteopath if I'm having some issues with my arm, but I first decipher, okay, well, what is it? Am I having issues because of this? And I kind of delineate why I might be having these issues first myself, and then I'll go, okay, I'm going to need a little help from this expert or this person who I know can help me. Let's move on a little bit
Most
because, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just say most things are emotional. I love this conversation. It's my soapbox. If it's going on this is opposite on the screen, but this is my right side. It could be masculine energy, or you have an issue with somebody, a male in your life, or you're with somebody. This is the feminine side. So if this shoulder's hurting, I'm like, okay, what masculine energy, or am I not tuned into my masculine energy? We have to look at the emotions of it as well.
Oh, I agree. Oh my God. I agree. I do that. So,
Yeah,
because I've interviewed, have you heard of Yvette Rose, Julia Cannon, Dory, what was it?
love Julia Cannon,
So her
Dolores
book,
Cannon's daughter. Yeah,
yes.
Soul Speak
So
is one of my favorite books.
yes. So I interviewed
Yeah.
her last year and we
Oh my
talked
god,
a
I
lot
love it.
about that. We talked, I also interviewed Dr. Bradley Nelson, the emotion
Yep.
code.
Emotion code, yep.
So, you know, I love that you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that because I one of the things that Julia talks about is if it's the right side, it is right now. What's going on right now? If it's the left, it's the past as well. So, I do a lot of explorative writing. And a lot of times people will say to me, and that could be journal, whatever. People go, "Oh, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer." I mean, like kids these days don't even learn how to actually do cursive, which to me is so
Cursive,
weird.
right?
It's so weird. And it's like the very basic, like you need to be able to write. Use pen to paper because that actually slows the brain down so you can maybe even resolve things within yourself. You don't have to be a writer to do journaling. And I actually say this to my kids who are both adults, Gail, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not a writer." I'm like, "I don't care if you're a writer. You don't have nobody's going to read it. It's for you." And sometimes I'll even suggest, if let's say you had stress with the election and you couldn't sleep because I this morning when I checked my social media, there's all these memes and jokes about people who didn't sleep all night and they were stressed. I'm like, okay, when I have that kind of trouble, I'll pull out my journal and I'll not even think about it, Gail, but I will just put just from my brain to paper and it's like I leave it there and it helps me and then close it up and then I can sleep. So there's a lot of tools and you do talk about these tools in the documentary, some of them because there's so many, but one of them is just write it down people. Write it down.
It helps you to process it. I mean, I really believe in that, and I love to write. I'm left-handed, and so I
Me
love to just,
too.
write. Are you really? We're in our
Yes.
right mind.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I love, I just my uncle, I guess, was to credit for that. I'm very ambidextrous, so I can do most things, with both hands. But my uncle used to tell my mom, "Stop changing her hand." My mom would take it from my left hand, put it in the right hand, take it from, and my uncle was like, "Just leave her alone. She's maybe supposed to be." But in the 1970s, people were like, "Oh my God, everybody's got to be right-handed. There's no left-handed scissors." Our life was hard. Like trying to be left-handed.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I think my dad told me a story. He's now 87, but I think he told me a story that they actually did force him to change and write with his right hand. When I was little, I don't remember anybody trying to force me, but I know it was anyway, left-handed people are not
In their right
normal.
mind.
We're not
No
normal people. We're not the norm, but that's good. That makes us unique, and I love it. Um, so what do you think has happened that has made and shown the world such mass imbalance now? So, do you think it was the pandemic that really was kind of the springboard that showed, hey, the world you're either this side or that side, you're this way or that way. What do you think?
I don't think so. It was long before that we were already way out of balance. Because my parents were both medical error deaths in 2017. And so we were way out of balance even before the pandemic. So I don't think it was the pandemic. I think the pandemic was beautiful in that it made people wake up and say, "Oh my gosh, like we need to take our power back." Um, in my opinion, I don't think there was any need for the harshness of it. I think it ruined a lot of people's lives. It caused a lot of suicides, domestic violence, people's businesses shut down, their livelihood was shut down. They lost their jobs. I mean, it was horrible. And to me, H1N1 virus in 1994 killed more people than COVID during the Obama administration, and we didn't shut the country down. So why this time? Astrologically, I think there was some reasons that we had some lessons that we needed to learn, but that was hard. It was a hard learning experience for humanity. And, I feel my heart goes out to so many people that were affected in such a horrible way. I know, and maybe the lesson was needed, but it just seems like that was a hard way to learn. So no, I don't think it was just the pandemic that created the imbalance, but I think it really magnified
Yeah.
what's wrong.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that it's almost like it was a little bit behind the veil before, and then the pandemic kinda just went, "All right, this is it, people. This is what we got." It's been hiding behind that veil for a while. I would agree with you. Now, I need to ask you about spirituality because I don't ever push my belief systems on anyone personally. I have created my own, and my belief is that it's very difficult to live a grounded life where you're happy. When I shouldn't say happy, where you can deal with adversity because we can't be happy all the time. And spirituality and having some belief system is an important facet to that. I would love to hear your take on that. And this isn't about religion. For anybody who's listening, this isn't about religion.
No. No, it's spirituality is different. So I say I'm very spiritual, but I'm not into organized religion because I was raised Catholic. I was molested by the priest of the parish when I was 14. And when I told my parents, they said you're lying. That Father Brennan would never do this, and I write about it in my book. I mean, he's a well-known, in history. He's passed away now, that he did this, and lots of documentation about it and everything. I felt so shameful when I told my own mom and dad, and they said, "You're lying." And
Mm,
I was like, "No, I'm not lying." And I even asked some of the girls, I'm like, "Can you come forward?" And they're like, "No, we saw what just happened to you. Well, we're not going to say anything." And so he went on to do this for so many years. So I walked away from God in organized religion because at 14 years old, that's who God is. It's the priest, right? You're not real smart at 14 years old. And so the funny thing that happened in the universe, which I think the universe is so darn funny, David Stanley, who I dated, Elvis's stepbrother, after Elvis passed away, he became an evangelist. So here I am now with an evangelist,
wow.
and quite comical, quite funny. So, there's balance. I was very out of balance. There's definitely balance. I came back to God and more spiritual things. But I think to me, Buddhism and different religions like that, just be a good person.
Mm,
Vedanta, I just learned about a spiritual practice and like kind of a religion, is oneness and harmony and community and being, honoring the divinity of the soul. So I bring that into my mm, my life, where it's like we're all one, and we shouldn't judge each other. And it doesn't matter what you believe in. We should respect each other, not judge each other. And we can all live in harmony together, knowing that we're all one. No one's getting out alive. I mean, I don't care if you're Steve Jobs, look at all the money in the world's not going to save you. So, you know, I just think that we should just be a good person, stay in a place of love and gratitude. We can change the world, but hate and fear and the way the programming works on, in the media, they keep you in a place of fear. And that's such a low vibration. So that makes people angry. And then that makes people like not want to be a good person. And everybody's in greed and ego. And, it's like every man for themselves or every woman for themselves. That's not how we come into community. That's not how we change the world. And so spirituality to me is just being a good person and, trying to support and love one another without judgment.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to hear, what is it called? Vendetta? Vendetta?
Then yeah, Vedanta, Vedanta. Danta. Yeah. I just learned about it yesterday and I started looking it up because my
Yeah.
podcaster studies that, the girl that was doing the podcast. And I like to learn about you as the podcaster because I think we have a more beautiful connection and interview when I know that you're a stellium and Capricorn and I know you're from Canada, but you're Croatian. And I know that you eat eggs 3 times a week. And I know, so I feel like I can connect with you on a different level if I do that. And so when I learned about her, I'm like, what is this? So I learned so much from, I've done more than 100 podcasts, and look how much I've learned from studying the podcasters.
I agree with you so much because, okay, I've done quite a bit of guesting as well. And I've been on podcasts where it's like, okay, like let's press. And I'm like, wait a minute, like I don't even have a chance to like get to know you or connect a little bit. And so this is why before I actually record, I like to have however time is needed where we feel like, okay, let's have a real conversation. So I love that. And and you're going to love this, Gail. So just recently, so I've had some stuff going on since actually I was in Croatia and I joke about this because I that's my way is to be sarcastic and that's my form of humor is I'm like, I got off the plane after like the most beautiful trip in Croatia in October, and I feel like I stepped in a giant pile of shit. And I feel like and it's not being negative. It's me being just like sarcastic because I got COVID after and I was quite sick and all that. And I was speaking to this woman, she's a spiritual practitioner who I really, really respect. And she said, just do Ho'oponopono,
Yeah.
the Hawaiian practice. And,
Forgiveness. Yep.
and I'm like, okay, I heard about this so many years ago, but at that time it didn't resonate for me. And so I just kind of ignored it. No judgment. I just kind of ignored it. And this is where I'm like, everybody has to figure out what resonates with them at that particular time in their life, and it changes. So I started doing Ho'oponopono walks. I walk with my dog, and it's a meditation for me. And it helps clear the junk because all I'm doing is saying, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And that's it.
Love you. Yep.
And I it's like I reset. So
Yeah.
I will look into this practice, and I will say one other thing because I am on social media a lot. It's part of what I do. I have to be there, otherwise I'm nowhere, unfortunately. But I do have limits where I shut it down, like 8 o'clock off. I'm not responding to anything or
Yeah.
anything, but I find it almost sad that in the world. So if I was to talk about Ho'oponopono publicly, somebody on TikTok would probably call me out for cultural appropriation or something. And it's like, we as humans, when we take offense at everything, that to me is a lower vibration. So
Mhm.
for example, if I am saying something and I'm talking about something out of love, to maybe it'll catch on and resonate with somebody else. And then that practice will help somebody else. How is that cultural appropriation? So you see what I'm saying? So if it's done from a place of love and let's make the world a little bit better. And I listen, I have adult kids, I was saying. So I'm always like, kids, mm-mm. Let's not accentuate this whole "we're not allowed to say anything anymore" world where
Mhm.
everybody's gonna take
Yeah,
offense.
it's very sad. We had I want to say he's a famous musician named Uncle George in Hawaii, in Maui. And we have a center owner over there in Maui that has two harmonic eggs, and he did a blessing for the harmonic eggs. And he said twice in his life, he's in his 70s, twice in his life, he has seen lightning all over the island with no thunder. And he said that is like a rebirth. And he said after he did the blessing of the harmonic eggs, there was lightning and no thunder. And he said that to me was rebirth. It was like new birth, birthing something new on the land. And so he said, "Can I please record a Ho'oponopono song, Harmonic Egg?" It was Ho'oponopono, um, Hawaiian healing for the harmonic egg. And so we have that song on a download on the website, and it is him singing in Hawaiian, in the native language, the Ho'oponopono. I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. It is so beautiful. It reminds me of a light language. And when I listen to it, I get goosebumps every time. And it is just such a beautiful expression of how people come together and say, let me help you, and I just attract that to my life. It's so beautiful. And I think we create our own reality. And I love the reality that I've created. And you're right. People get offended by way too much. If you don't like it, just move on.
Just move
You
on.
don't have to engage and be angry.
Yeah, just move on, and I think no there are very few people that I know that do things purposely to hurt somebody or something or a culture. I mean, I personally kinda like you. I surround myself with, I guess, a higher vibration, or I try to. And when it's not for me, then I move on. And I think maybe there's a reason why. What am I supposed to learn from this? Because I've had a
Yeah.
lot of lessons in this space, and I see them as the reason it's coming to me is because I meant to learn something from it. And that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't help everyone, and there's always going to be somebody that's offended by something, but I think if we can learn to learn from each other and be like, I wonder why that person thinks that way. And that's what I'll ask people. I'm like, why do you think that way? It's like, maybe help me understand and expand my consciousness about this topic. And sometimes people will tell me something, I go, I did not think of it that way, and I love it. But that's adulting, right? That's being an adult and trying to figure out how to learn from each other instead of being a child on a playground being like, "No, you're wrong, I'm right." There's so many adults that are, what are they? Children trapped in adult bodies.
Yeah. I would like to just mention because you had a stat in the It's Time. You had a few. You had some really compelling research in there that would just kind of show maybe there might be other ways to look at our wellness. And one of them was related to the health trajectory and what is normally seen as we age versus where it's at now. And I think it starts to decline. What was it in the 20s or something, Gail?
27 years old, we're seeing the millennials are peaking at their top health level, which is so scary. It's a Blue Cross Blue Shield study. One of our cast was Sarah, And Sarah was a healthcare attorney, and she left because she saw that there was not health nor care in healthcare, and that the doctors were sicker than their patients. And so she had to leave because she didn't feel like there was integrity there for her. So she tells her story a little bit in the documentary. Um, yeah, if millennials are peaking at age 27 in their health, that's very scary because they're our future. And so if they are our future, what are we looking at? We're seeing people in nursing homes, very young in their 20s and 30s. Now, I don't really know what the true reason is. I think stress is a big thing. I think that our foods, our processed foods that we eat, is another thing. We have 24-hour fitness on every corner, but we're the most unhealthy with that we've ever been. But in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, we didn't have a fitness center on every corner. And I think the 70s, that's when they were starting, but we were healthier. Yes, there was certain diseases because we didn't have the clean, water. Technology has made our lives better, but it's also made our lives worse. So I really feel like we need to take a step back and look at what is making us unhealthy and taking back our power and getting healthy. I feel like at 54, I'm the healthiest I've ever been because I have that wisdom now. I would never want to be 20 again as I have the wisdom now. In my 20s, I had a Snickers bar and a Mountain Dew for breakfast.
Right here. I was a smoker
Yeah.
too, so there you go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's like, really? And so fortunately, I learned by age 26, that's when I learned that I had yeast infections every single month. But hey, when you have raviolis for lunch and pasta for dinner, and you're pounding down these carbs that convert into sugar, and then it's creating a candida problem in your body, you're going to have a yeast infection every month. And so at 26, I learned from a microbiologist what was going on, and I shifted everything around sugars and carbs that break down. Carbs aren't bad, but carbs that are breaking down into sugars are different than carbs, healthy carbs. And so fortunately, I've been living a healthy lifestyle since 26, 27 years old. And therefore at 54, I feel amazing. And then I have also the wisdom behind that age.
I was a late bloomer, Gail. I was a late bloomer. But you know what? We all have our journey, and when it's time, we learn or sometimes we don't. And we're meant,
Right.
I've got my other belief systems that I believe we come back later on to learn other lessons, but that's a whole other conversation. But I do think that when our minds are more open and we're more internally healed. It's kind of like even on TikTok, I do a lot of stuff as it relates to good skin, healthy skin. That's just TikTok. It's a little bit more superficial, let's
Yeah.
just say. But it's part of what I believe in, but I always say it starts inside. You can't think you're gonna have great skin if you're smoking a pack a day and drinking half a bottle of wine a night, and I'm not judging people. I'm just saying there are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
There are no shortcuts. There's not a shortcut to spirituality. There's no shortcut to feeling good and being healthy. There's no shortcut. There's no magic pill that's gonna make you not be depressed anymore. Sometimes you just gotta work through the shit to get to the other side because it's going to make you better and stronger.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. Last week, my boyfriend's neighbor's 22-year-old son hung himself. He had an amazing
Oh,
job. He had a BMW parked outside. He lived with his mom, didn't pay rent. And he was on antidepressants and he was drinking. And so mom took the bottle of alcohol away from him and he went downstairs and hung himself. Like, how
oh
does a
my
mother live with herself? I feel so bad for her. But how is your life that bad when you are not paying rent, you're living with your mom, she's cooking all your meals, you're got a great job, you're driving a BMW. How is that so bad? Like, I don't understand why these kids feel like life is so horrible. Look at us. When we grew up in the 70s, I shared a room with my little sister in a a 3-bedroom house. My brother had his own room. My mom and dad had their room. I had to share a room with my sister. I was wearing hand-me-down clothes from my mom's friends' kids, and they would tease us. And we didn't have like our vacations were camping trips because that's all we could afford. These kids today are spoiled rotten, and we're not doing them any service by just giving them everything and doing everything for them.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's literally heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
I think that so a 22-year-old, I have a 23-year-old and I have a 19-year-old. And a lot of times I feel like they almost rebel. Their way of rebelling is to, show their mom that they're eating McDonald's or they're having caffeinated drinks like 3 times a day or whatever. But all I can do as a parent, and I'm sure there's a lot of parents, is to lead by example and just show them that there are options and there are tools. Because
Yeah.
when you press and push your agenda, it doesn't work. They're adults.
Yeah.
So, um, I just wanna move on because I will get emotional. That's very heartbreaking.
Right. It's hard. I mean, it is so hard. And I just, my heart goes out to, these kids that they don't, they don't get it yet. But we want them to stick around. We want them to love themselves. But I think part of the diet is causing the depression and the neurological problems because the inflammation, the caffeine, the ingredients in Taco Bell and Arby's and McDonald's and that. So it's part of the problem.
It is, absolutely. And then the other part of the problem is, personally, we on the one hand, we love technology and it does so much, but on the other hand, it removes us from who we are inside and it like I I find it just I just don't understand it, Gail. When I see people intensely jogging in the forest, music blaring, headphones on, I'm like, why are you in the forest? Like, what's the point? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, eh, we want to reset and maybe you don't need to be so fierce in your jogging and maybe you need to take the headphones off and maybe you know what I mean? Like, these are things that people think they're good for them. But what's good for you is to start with getting in touch with the inside. That's the good
Yeah.
part. And then maybe you won't want to have all that caffeine. Maybe you won't want to have that Arby's and it changes your perspective when you get in touch with what's in there. So
Yeah.
uh, I did mention the documentary Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds. I mean, it's not as it's not very fancy, it's very old, but it did remind me a little bit because of yours, only because the documentary kind of talks a little bit about how we treat ourselves like robots. Okay,
Mhm.
now I got to do my breath work for 5 minutes. Okay, now I'm gonna get an app to do this, and now I'm gonna get like, listen, sometimes we need technology. That's what I was saying to you to remind ourselves, but it's almost like we're treated like robots in every aspect, even when it comes to our sickness. Okay, I'm not looking at your genetics. I'm not looking at how you might respond to this drug. I'm not looking at, what have you done for food as medicine? Are you doing any yoga or are you doing anything, any mindfulness practices? But here, I'm going to write you a script for this antidepressant. And there you go. Oh, you're going through menopause? Here's an antidepressant. Oh, we're not even gonna check if you have thyroid disease, and I've written about this. We're not even gonna check why you have heart palpitations and anxiety. I'm gonna write you a script for an anti-anxiety medication. And this is real. Like, I have been on that spectrum of um, a TSH of 32 where I couldn't get off the couch to a TSH of undetectable thyroid hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone. And had I not known that, okay, I had my thyroid out, I knew I was imbalanced in my medications. If I was just a regular person going in with a thyroid gland, would they even check that? We are not robots. So, what are your thoughts
Right.
on that?
Well, and I've studied a lot of things. I mean, I've had doctors tell me, "Why didn't you just get your doctorate degree?" And I'm like, "I don't want to be on their radar." So I've studied how to read blood work, and I've talked to the doctors. Okay, why do you just check TSH in your thyroid when you should be checking T3, T3 free, T4, TPO? I said because you have a 50, puzzle piece puzzle, and you have one piece. How do you know the picture? You don't know the picture from one piece. And so they don't do this. And they said, well, if we start testing TPO, we get on, a list. And they don't want us to find the root cause. They just want us to prescribe people medicines based on the TSH, and that's it. So, yes, we can't keep operating that same way. We have to get the whole picture. We can't run around like robots, like, okay, I have, an imbalance in one thing, so I'm going to take a drug. You're not seeing the whole picture. And when you look at the organs of the body, you have to consider the emotions. Again, we're not robots, we're human beings with emotions. Fear in the kidneys, anger in the liver, worry in the stomach, worry in the pancreas. I just had a guy tell me that one of the dolphins at one of the dolphin facilities that I donate to was sick with pancreatitis. It's rare, and I said, a lot of these dolphins are born into captivity and they're beautifully taken care of. It's not a bad thing. And then they're there to be therapy dolphins. Who's teaching the dolphins how to clear these energies from the
Mm,
people that they're healing? And I said, you know what? I think that this dolphin has taken on somebody's worry and that's storing in the pancreas of the dolphin. And he's like, Gail, you're brilliant. This was brought to my attention recently, and I think you're exactly right. Somebody that they worked with, this dolphin, had a lot of worry, and the dolphin was very, caring towards this person. So even with that, we have to think about the emotions. We are not robots. We are emotional, spiritual human beings having a spiritual experience on this planet called Earth, and we're here to express emotions. We don't have to hold on to anger and fear, but we're here to experience this training ground of emotions. And how do we process that? Can you be angry? Should I have been angry with this guy that tagged me yesterday in the accident? Yeah, I should have been, but I wasn't. Accidents happen. How am I going to express the emotion? Am I going to get out of the car and punch him in the face? You know what? I hugged him. Why on earth I hugged a stranger, I don't know. It just happened, but that's what my intuition led me to do.
yeah. So, how do you think let's talk about healing frequencies here. I think it's really important because once you the way I look at it is what we're taking in is probably start there. Just start eating whole real foods. Don't don't worry about anything else. Stop eating out of a package. Just start there. That's what like you got to meet people where they're at. And
Right.
then maybe stop using modalities to deflect emotion. Okay. My husband's a smoker, Gail. I'll never get him to quit ever
Yeah.
when I met him. So me telling him to quit, that's his journey, his life,
Yep.
whatever. So, but in general, I'm going to say smoking is a deflection. So is alcohol from really, really getting to the root and feeling. So is food. Food can be too,
Oh yeah.
right? So, kind of getting in touch with that. Now, how can healing frequencies come in and what are they?
Okay, so we can have another hour-long discussion. I know we need to wrap
And
up
we
soon.
will. And we will.
Yes, we'll do this again.
Yes.
But let's give them little tidbits. So there are, when you're born onto the planet, you being a Capricorn, born where you are, there were probably frequencies missing from the planet when you dropped in. So therefore, you may have been missing those frequencies your whole life. If you're missing the frequency of C, like the tone or I should say the tone or key of C, then you could have circulatory issues, heart issues, erectile dysfunction issues. A trauma can also knock out a frequency or a tone. I want to say a tone from your voice. And so it's really interesting, the tone of E for lungs and different things. So we try to bring those frequencies back into the body with music. And so it's really interesting that a lower frequency, as we talked about David Hawkins' work, the lower frequencies can be, keeping you in a place of fear and shame and guilt. You want to raise your vibration to a place of love. People who smoke and have addictions can often be missing the tones of B and G. And so we have an addiction protocol. And sometimes just replenishing those, they don't have those addictions. I've had people tell me, I still went to the gas station and bought a pack of cigarettes, which in Vegas, we were in Vegas a couple weeks ago and I saw cigarettes for $15 a pack. I've never smoked, but that seems like it's a lot of money. Um, anyway, they said I still drove to the gas station. It was like a habit. Like my car just went to the gas station and I got some cigarettes, but I didn't really even want them after the session. So you can replenish these. So a lot of things are just a depletion of a tone from your voice. Then you look at frequencies, the solfeggio suite. Then you look at if it's an MP3 file versus a .wav file. If you're listening to compressed um, frequencies on like really cheap speakers, you're not really getting 528 hertz. I mean, people are just fooling themselves if they think, but hey, if the placebo effect in their brain says, I'm listening to 528 hertz on YouTube with an MP3 file on like my crappy computer speakers and they're healing, then great. Yay. Good. I
Mhm.
mean, if that's what they feel, that's great. But they would do better if they would listen to like a WAV file on a fully expressed music file. And I think the MP3 files will also confuse your nervous system, like binary code. So if your nervous system is listening to an MP3 file, and we're looking at things in binary code, ones and zeros, ones and zeros, the nervous system's like, okay, that's a one. Oh, wait, what was that, a zero? Oh, no, maybe that was a one. Well, maybe. Now look how much time has gone by and your nervous system's not really feeling what's going on. But when you're listening to a WAV file, the nervous system is really great about 1 0 0 1 0 0 0 1, and it's absorbing it in real
What
time. So
file?
you're being
Sorry?
very present.
A what file?
Binary code? Oh,
No, but
WAV, dot WAV,
oh, okay, okay, okay. Yes.
WAV
Yeah.
file. I think
Okay.
some people call them WAV files, but it's actually
Yeah, I call it a
WAV.
WAV file. That's why I'm like, what is that? Sorry.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I when
So
I do my podcast, I can save it in MP3 or WAV file. So that's why I
yes.
wanted clarification.
So yeah, sorry. I call it a WAV file because it doesn't have an E at the end. So it's just how I say it. I don't even know if
Okay,
that's the
okay,
correct way to
perfect.
say it. A WAV file. Um, and so I feel like we only use in the harmonic egg, we only use the WAV files or the WAV files so that you have the full expression of the music. And then the nervous system doesn't have to interpret anything. It's very clear and concise. So you have that. You have people using different frequencies. Okay, so then you have to look at who is the musician? What was the intention of the piece of music? And what energy, because everything is energy, what energy is coming through with that music? So you can have rap songs and things like that that people listen to that can have very bad vibrations. Like we
Mhm.
say, music is healing, but music can also be hurtful.
Yep.
I had a guy tell me his name was Robert Dursey, and he said that if you're listening to a musician and he has a heart condition, people in the audience can pick up that heart condition. Now that blew my mind because you'd have to be on that same, frequency, that same radio station with them, I think, to pick it up. So I'm really careful when I produce my music for the Harmonic Egg that the musician has stayed in a place of love and I had one musician and she said, "Hey, my cat just died." I go, "Stop everything. I can't have you producing music while you're grieving your cat." And she said, "I agree 100%. I'm going to stop for a couple weeks until I get over this grief because I don't want to put that grief that I'm experiencing into the music for the harmonic egg." So we're really careful about that because everything is energy and we are all connected and we can pick up each other's energies. So frequency healing is, they would say, is the medicine of the future, but the future is now. We're here now, but we have to be very discerning when we go to an energy medicine healer or go and experience a modality. I would entertain the audience to tune into their intuition. If your gut feeling, you walk into a room and your gut, you get that really sick feeling in your gut, maybe you should just walk out because maybe that's going to be harmful to your body instead of helpful. Or maybe it's going to bring up some emotions that you're not ready to process yet. So listen to your body, listen to your intuition, be discerning. We're in a whole new future of medicine where we're going to have to navigate some things that we've never navigated before. And not, there is no one size fits all. We're all wired differently. And we're going to have to figure out what works for our being, our human being, and really honor ourselves, trust ourselves, and love ourselves in this process.
I like that you mentioned that about being discerning because, I actually don't hear about it as much anymore, but at one point everybody was talking about Reiki. Reiki this, Reiki
Yeah.
that, Reiki master healer. And I don't really even hear about it as much, but I was very careful not to let just anybody touch my body or go around my body unless I felt really okay with it because I'm a big believer in what you just said. Like you got to be careful about whose energy and what frequency you allow. And then there's that whole cleansing process, right? Where I don't know. Like I know practitioners who are strong enough that they don't get really that affected by the energies. It's kind of like your car accident that you had. You're you're vibrating high enough that you didn't lose your mind and start yelling at the guy and you know what I mean? So you're vibrating at a higher level. And maybe, I don't know, maybe if he started yelling at you, you would still be like, accidents happen or, you
Yeah.
know, sorry.
Yeah.
That's hard
No,
though. It's
I've been
hard to be that
able
zen.
to, you know what, but when you love yourself and you know who you are, then that kind of stuff doesn't bother you. I have people yelling at me a lot, not a lot, but I have people yelling at me. And I was like, you know what? It's not about me, it's about them. And I just send them love and it's their journey. And I used to take everything personal. Trust me, it took 40 plus years of my life to get here. So it's only been within the last, 10, 14 years that I'm here with this Zen. And I think it's the harmonic egg and sound and light healing. So it's not just the harmonic egg, but sound and light healing. We're vibrational beings of light from source, from God, and we should be healing with sound and light. But watch a kid be able to forgive. Watch an animal be able to forgive because they don't hold on to all that baggage in their cells. The harmonic egg and sound and light therapies are releasing that trauma from the cellular level so you can go back to being that loving being.
Mm.
There's no conditional, unconditional love. It's just love, but just let's say unconditional love. My horse stepped on my kitten a couple weeks ago
Oh,
and it was brutal. I mean, it was brutal. I put the
oh,
cat's picture in the egg, and the cat fully recovered, and they're best friends again. That showed me how you can forgive. I mean, that cat should be angry with the horse for the rest of his life,
yeah,
but he's
yeah, yeah.
still on the cat's back, walking around. The cat thinks that the horse is his warming bed, and it's his own personal cat bed. And the cat's back on the horse's back, and now he's a little more careful when she's walking towards him. He does move, which was a hard lesson for him to learn. But what kind of forgiveness is that? I mean, it's such a beautiful, I'm watching real time how forgiveness can work.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I could talk to you forever. We will definitely be booking another recording and we'll go into more depth about frequencies, but please let us know where we can find you, how we can download and support your documentary.
Yeah, thank you for asking that because I think I'm offering this documentary for free. And it's because I don't want someone to say, well, I didn't get the message or I couldn't get the message because I couldn't afford, $1.99 or whatever. So, or whatever. So I wanted people to have access to this message for free. It's time.love and it has to be HTTPS. We've noticed that with if you don't put the S there, it doesn't work. HTTPS www.itstime.love. And it's on Rumble, it's on YouTube. So there's no excuse for people not getting the message. Judgment is the only thing that separates us. Learning to love ourselves, learning about energy medicine, and doing things with kindness and love. My main website with all my blog posts and podcasts and book and music is harmonicegg.com. But I really want people to pay it forward, watch the movie, share the movie. If we can get 1 million people to watch it, then I believe if those 1 million people do something with love and kindness, we can change the world. And that's my goal.
I love that. And do you know when was it released?
September 18th
Okay. Do you
of
know how many
2024.
people
So
are you
we've
able
had
to
about
track?
Yes, we've been tracking on YouTube. We've been tracking. I haven't even looked at Rumble, and then we have it on Vimeo through the website, so we are able to track it. I think about 10,000 people only have watched it, so we got a long ways to go. Um, I think the more people that share it, the more documentary or the more podcasts that I do, am getting people to share the documentary. It's going to grow. I'm going to be on Alex Ferrari's Next Level Soul. I'm flying to Austin. I'll be recording with him in studio November 21st, and I think he reaches over 200 million people. So I think that
Wow.
1 million people to watch it will be easy. And he's also creating a new streaming platform called Next Level Soul TV. It's going to be a Netflix for inspiring movies, and he's launching that after the election, so pretty soon. And so we've been talking every day. He's licensing the film from me so that he can put it on his platform. And I've given him all the bonus footage of all the, full interviews and the um, Dutch version, the Dutch translation. So we have closed captioning. So we have these SRT files in Dutch, Thai, French, Italian, and Spanish. So you can watch the movie on YouTube in those languages as well. So I think it'll get out there once that interview releases.
And I will do everything I can in my little power and my little platform to keep spreading
Thank
because
you.
I talk about it regularly in my stories and my Instagram, which I find I get a lot of people watching. So if you're listening, please go and download it. Go watch it on Rumble, go watch it wherever, just because it will support in my opinion, just just a better world, a better
Yeah.
place, a more healed world because it'll encourage you to look within, let's just say.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, if we have a donate button, but I'm not expecting to make my money back on it. And everybody knows that YouTube, I'm not a monetizer on YouTube yet. I don't have enough watch hours, so I mean Rumble has some stuff like that. So maybe eventually it'll get its return on investment, but I'm
Yeah.
not expecting it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all you do. I really appreciate you, Gail.
Thank you.
All right. I had stop there. Stop